Hey, y'all. Hey, this is Ann from Andale Homestead.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. This is Casey over at Ormsby Farms.
And this is Sandy from Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Good morning.
And I'm Monica from Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Thank you guys so much for coming in. Sorry, I realized we were starting and I'm like looking into my screen over here, trying to make sure that Ginger, who has been an amazing like multitasker in all the chats. I just realized she's not an admin in my chat. So I'm trying to like figure out how to hurry up and make her an admin for my chat really quick. Okay, so we're super busy this morning. We can see everybody in here. And I would like to see if maybe Miss Ann can say hello to everybody while I am trying to do some background work over here.
I would love to do that. Hey, Teresa Jukowitz. I'm so glad you're here today, honey. And Knucklehead. That looks like a picture that would be called Knucklehead. Hey, Not for Nothing Homestead Ginger, our sweet moderator for the whole works. Everybody, right now we're broadcasting on all 4 channels as well as Round the Hay Bale channel on YouTube. And so it's important if you could please run over to Round the Hay Bale and be able to, if you like it, subscribe, because once we get up to 500 friends, we're going to have a big old giveaway. And that's what we love. So, hey, Troy Sutton, glad you're here. And Joe Fix It For You. This is Ginger's husband from Not For Nothing Homestead. Joe Fix It For You. And man, this guy can fix anything. Hey, Kayla Duckett. She's the other half of Sneed's Farmhouse. Amanda Dahl, I'm so glad you're here today. And Francisco, my buddy and pal. You know, we Anns have to stick together. Hey, Jeremy. Hello. I'm so glad you're here. It all adds up. Hey there, doll babies. I'm glad you're here. Tamara from L&L Homestead. Hey, y'all. Hey. G Mama grows hard in the garden. She's such a good friend of mine. Thank you for being here, G Mama. She says, good morning and how do everybody? Jesus Loving Homestead. We get to chat with her in just a little bit. Josh, well, hey, honey, from Sherman's Family Farm. He's traveling the whole country every day. You never know where that man's going to drive up in the driveway. So we're just thrilled to have everyone in here today. And thank you so much. We try to keep these lives around 30 minutes, but we are broadcasting on Ormsby Farms, Bland's Promised Land Ranch, Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona, and Andale Homestead, as well as Round the Hay Bale. And we just had a great podcast before. And so, Monica, what can you tell us what we were talking about on Monday when our podcast was released?
All right. So we were talking about tilling, or maybe not tilling, depending on which side you fall into. I feel like I'm in like that middle ground right now where I kind of want, but I kind of don't. It's like the till angel and the no till angel here.
We're a very divided group of hosts.
Yeah, we are.
Me
We
and
really
Ann
are.
are the tilling.
Yeah. It's like I've got Eric on my shoulder. He's like, till, till, till. And then Carmen's over here and she's like, don't till. Go back to Eden. Try my method. Speaking of Carmen, I feel like maybe we should have Carmen up here. There she is. Carmen from Loving Homesteader. Thank you so much for coming in. And you were a wonderful guest host on our podcast this past Monday where we talked about tilling or no tilling. You were one of the angels on my shoulders trying to whisper the no-till method in my ear. So tell us a little bit about what we talked about. You guys can chat it up that way.
Okay.
Why is tilling or no-tilling better?
I obviously am for no tilling. And the reason why I am this way is because I've tried a little of both methods. And I've tried just, having the raised beds and pouring the Miracle-Gro and allowing my plants to kind of tell me what they wanted and what they didn't. I also like to garden with the mentality of not wanting to spend a ton of money every single season. Right. That's something that a lot of people like to kind of throw in, like, well, gardening is so expensive. It's a lot to start. For me, when I don't till, I'm like allowing myself to really just take a time to kind of watch what the plants want, watch the soil to see how it, just takes to what the Back to Eden style, the no-till, the hugelkultur, what that has to offer. So I literally am just pouring compost on, adding wood chips or some type of layer of covering. You can use loads of different methods for the covering: rocks, hay, straw, wood chips, leaf mold, anything that covers. And the soil underneath, I've noticed, is a lot more damp. It's a lot more loose. It's full of microbes. It's full of fungi. It's full of worms. Just there's life under there. I like to actually call this living soil. So there's a difference in my house when I talk to people about my garden. I'm like, there's a difference between dirt and living soil. And you can kind of even see it in my yard. It's like the garden, the soil has so much life. And then I go to like my chicken area, or I go to like where the children play, and it's just dusty, like gray sand that that it's really hard to dig in. And there's no life in that soil. Like you could just tell in that dirt, there's no life. So for me, it hasn't just been like guys, you should just do it. Just do the no-till, I heard it's great. I see how well it works. Especially for me, it may take time in the beginning. Don't get discouraged for the first or second season if you're not seeing those immediate results. But isn't that with just life? Like, we were just talking about a diet that people are on. I don't expect to see results tomorrow. Same thing with anything you put yourself into. If you're starting a new business or anything, the soil is going to need time for everything to adjust. And if you're watching my page on Jesus Loving Homesteader, I kind of show you a little bit about the progress. My very first video on YouTube is us starting it. Like us literally looking at the garden and being like, look, this is what it looks like. This is going to change because we're motivated people and we are going to change.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome. And Sandy, you are also a non-tiller.
I am. And I have to honestly tell you, for years, I had one of those great big tillers and I would till everything. And it is a lot of work. Now, does the soil look beautiful after I till it? Yeah. It's nice and crumbly and all this kinds of stuff like that. But then I really investigated. I like facts. That's just me. I like facts. And so I studied, I listened, I read, and I thought, why am I doing all this work when I can get the same kind of yield, less weeds? I'm going to let the microbes and the worms and my garden and whatever mulch I'm using, because I like leaves for mulches, straw sometimes, let that do all the work. Why should I do all the work? And so it's just choices. It is not right or wrong. I don't think it's anything to end a friendship with. It is just choices. And for me, I love it. I love it that, like Carmen said, the soil is cool and moist, and I just pull less weeds. And as the years go by, it's less and less weeds.
Okay.
It's really depends on what you want to do.
I'll tell you, I watch. Oh, I'm sorry, Ann. I was just going to say that I actually went all through Carmen's page back when I was wanting to do hugelkultur, because she is just the queen of knowledge on hugelkultur. And it is true what she said. I was so disappointed my first year because it did okay. It did fine. But it's taken this year, which is the third year, and the plants actually look like they're wanting to live. So listen to Carmen when it says, don't give up on it. Give it a little bit of years. It will be the best for you. I'm trying, because I am a tiller. I'm trying to spread my branches a little bit and not be so bougie on having to have the perfect farmer rows of tilled crop garden, and do a little bit of the hugelkultur, the raised beds. So this was a fun episode to join in on and listen and learn, and
It was, yeah, absolutely.
deadbeat. And Ann, you're a tiller too, right? You
Yeah,
and work
well,
are big tillers.
not me personally. My husband is an old farmer, and he grew up as a little boy being on the watermelon patch and so forth. And so he thinks that a garden is supposed to have tilled rows, raised rows, and all those types of things. Jailbait and Tackle Outdoors, thank you for coming in here. Hey, Christy Betts, we're glad you're here. But I have a question. All right, so this year, because we put down ground cover, it's a cloth, it's very thin, the water can go through it, but we do put down ground cover in our garden because I don't like to pull weeds. And but we burn little holes where we're going to either put the plants that I've already started or place the seeds in. And this year we had 2 rows that still had the ground cover from last year, and already had all the little holes for the peas and the beans. And I said, well, why don't we don't need to take it up. We can just put some little amendments in the holes and plop those seeds in there and go right on. Well, he didn't like that idea, but we did it. And it really didn't yield as well, but it was the first year. So if I can steal away a couple of rows in my garden, Carmen, where do I start to be able to have a no-till section? What do I do if it's already an established row, but I need to help it to be more nutrient?
You could probably really just steal 2 rows towards the end and just like not have the ground cover right there, that tarp thing you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about. I
It's
would
cool.
probably just throw maybe some compost on top and almost like a mound. That's kind of what hugelkultur is. That's where it goes. It's more like a mound, a pile. And see, kind of just put some wood chips or whatever works for you on top and just let it do its thing. But the key in the beginning is not letting it dry out.
Oh,
I would probably let it or water it really, really well the first couple weeks, kind of get it going. Because if you get like if it's dry and you get like a bad storm or rain or something, all that compost, everything is about to just be everywhere. So I want you to kind of make sure it's in order first and it's established, because your soil is used to what you've been doing. It's used to the tilling. I can go into a garden. All of us can go into a garden that has been tilled and one that's no till, and we can tell immediately that which one has been tilled, even if it's not in those pretty rows. The soil is naturally more like dusty, kind of sandy and loose, to where there's no like, kind of like when you go to a beach and you try to build a sandcastle and then you're trying to make sure the sand is damp so that it can hold its form. Very similar to a garden that's been tilled for so many years. You got to make sure it holds its form. If you're going to try to go from the tilling to the no-till, just that's kind of helps with the mulch helps with that a lot, is holding it in place in the beginning. And that's kind of why the first year is a lot harder, because your soil is definitely going through change and it's not used to it. So you just give it time. You know, sometimes it can get kind of weird. Bad storm comes, your soil's rolling off here, your compost is over there, and you're just like, what is going on?
yes.
It just takes time. It takes time. Just start looking to hugelkultur.
Okay. Well, I mean, I do sort of kind of hugelkultur in the raised beds, but and we do have chickens as well. So I have a lot of that I use. Whatever those little wood things are. What is that? Shavings.
The wood chips, the wood shaving.
I mean, it's shavings. You know, it's the shavings that you buy at Tractor Supply for your chicken.
Right.
I use those, and so would that be something that it would need to sit there for a little while with chicken manure in there?
Yeah, chicken manure is a hot compost, so it's going to burn your roots and plants and stuff if you do it right then and there. So I would make sure that you know for sure that the chicken manure with the shavings has been sitting for at least maybe, I want to say 4 or 5 months. But so it's hard. Like when I clean out my coops, I kind of take all of it out in a wheelbarrow and dump it in a pile. And I'll let that pile sit for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months. Some people do longer, some people do less. But 4 or 5 seem to work for me. And I make sure that it's to the point where I can put it on my garden on top and it's not burning anything. That's an issue people have too, is they're like, okay, well, I have these animals, I can use the manure, and they'll go straight from coop to garden, and they're like, why is everything yellow? Why is everything just doing good? And that's usually because it just hasn't been composted enough.
Okay. All right.
Now, one thing I wanted to tell you, Anne, when you're keeping your plastic down, that cover down for 2 years, just make sure you look every once in a while to see if there's not a lot of slugs starting to have a little home underneath there.
Okay.
Sometimes there can be fungus and diseases that can happen because you aren't lifting that up.
Okay.
Here, just be careful. But no matter how you cover your soil, your soil should be covered. If it's mulch, if it's wood chips, like I can't use wood chips here where I am in Wyoming because we are too dry and too windy, and so I would have to be watering every single day for me to break it down. So I use leaves. It just works for me.
Okay.
So you just need to know your area. Does straw or hay work for you? It might. It just depends. So sometimes, especially if you're going to try 2 rows of no-till, maybe try some different things. Maybe put some leaves on one section, some straw, different things that you have, newspaper, cardboard, whatever you want to use to hold that moisture in.
Awesome, because we have a lot of leaves, and that's what we have used in the past as well, is leaves. Now there's a lot of life that's underneath that. The cloth that we get is it's a cloth. It's not a plastic. So the water still goes through it. The sun really still goes through it. It just stops the grass. It's supposed to be for your flower bed, but we use it for the garden bed. And but you're right. There are more slugs and things like that under there. Normally, every year we remove all of that cloth, but this year we got a little tired of the garden and things were happening, and so.
Okay, so Ginger has a question. She says, "Can you use pine straw?" She has plenty of those little pine straws in Georgia. So can you use pine straw? I've heard mixed. See, I feel like I've heard mixed things about using pine. Is it pine straw or pine needles? Are they the same thing?
So have I.
Same thing.
You'll hear people say that, well, that's going to make your soil much more acidy. Well, you would have to have tons and tons and tons of pine needles or pine straw to make it more acidy. It's really kind of a fallacy that if you think that I'm putting a ring of pine needles around my tree and it's going to change the pH in my soil, because it is not.
It's a matter of kind of like, how they say to put like eggshells around plants to give them calcium, but that really is doing nothing unless you are grounding the eggshells.
Right.
So I see that a lot is people are like, well, I have all my eggshells out there. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, unless you ground that up, it really won't make a huge difference in adding calcium. So I would assume it would be very similar to the pine needles. Cause like Sandy said, I mean, if you're just putting pine needles around your plant as a mulch, I don't see that at all adding much acidity at all to your soil. But I would assume if you like grounded up the needles, then put it in the soil, maybe that would make more of a difference. But I mean, who's doing that?
Nobody's grounded.
And a lot of times when you're trying to change your pH, people have the misconception that it can, it changes it that year, like if you have rhododendrons and you're adding the acidifier in there, you can do it one time. That's not true. You have to do that every single year because your soil won't stay that. It wants to go back to its natural state. So why not let your natural state work for you? And so that's my idea of why I don't till. Also, I want all those natural things in there. I'm going to help it along with my leaves and my different things I add in there, my compost, my worm castings. I want my soil to get stronger and more structural and just make those plants grow better.
That's so awesome.
And I am going to co-sign for Ginger because here in Georgia we do have so many pine needles, pine straw, whatever you want to call it, you could probably build a 3-story house just on like an acre of Georgia land. Just saying.
Like the
It's
Three Little
endless.
Pigs.
Basically, yes. Correct. So
Okay,
I'm
so
so
really
excited, Ginger.
So I was gonna say before we go too much further. So we had a question in one of the chats too, and it was kind of back there. It wasn't that it was a question necessarily; it was a statement. Somebody was like, "I don't even know." I put a poll up in my page, and it said, "How do you do your garden? Do you till or no till?" And Evie, who is one of my subscribers, and she's like, "I don't even know what that means." And I was like, "Oh, you know what? Yeah,
Oh,
we should probably explain what does it mean to till." And what does it mean not to till? Well, obviously
right.
that's easy enough, right? So to till is simply what? Just turning the ground over? Is that the most basic form?
well, yeah, and you may use it with a rototiller. You might use a broad fork, and a lot of people that are considered no-till do use a broad fork sometimes just to get a little more air. It's a little more non-invasive to your soil. But most of the time when you think of tilling, they got a tractor behind it and they're pulling it, or they got a big rototiller, or one of those little Mantis rototillers as you go through.
Yeah, Casey, you gonna be the first little piggy. Get your house blown away.
Correct. Yeah.
So yeah, as far as
Yeah.
that's true. I mean, I didn't even. It was it's only been in the last couple of years, and it's not a new concept, but it was a new information to me. To what do you mean you don't till your garden each year? I mean, that
Right. Right.
was
Yeah,
a way of life.
sometimes people, when they're tilling because they want to incorporate maybe manures or compost in there. That they have a lot of hard pan. Maybe your garden section was someplace that there was a lot of tractors or cars or something that sat there for a long time, and then you pick that for your garden spot, so it's really compacted. And so at that point, when you start a new garden, I don't think there's anything wrong with tilling that first year. I seriously don't. Break it up a little bit. See what's going to come exposed in there. There's a lot of weed seeds that will sit 40 years before they ever germinate. They just have to have the
Wow.
right. Some farmers rototill the weeds in, which is okay if they do that when it's not gone to seed. But if it's gone to seed, it's just spreading seeds all through your soil.
And Sandy, you asked us that when we were shooting the podcast, is you need to think what are you tilling for? What is the reason? And because me, Worthdale, and Eric Bland have the same brain, because my eye twitches a little bit when we don't till. And I
Yeah,
start
it does.
going crazy. But then I had to sit and think. I was like, well, why do you till? And really, the best answer I get is because I saw it on YouTube. Honest to God, that is the true thing that I'm saying. That I don't know why we tell. I'm just a tiller.
Well, there's a lot of studies out there. So, facts, studies, I like it. That they've done 5-year studies on the beds are exactly the same. They're tilling every year on one bed. They're not tilling on the other beds. They're raising the same kind of crops, and they're seeing the production. Well, it's very similar, how much food you're getting, how much poundage. It can be very similar. So for me, why do I want to work that hard? I want my garden to work that hard, not me.
Right.
That's very true.
Andy also mentioned kind of the fork kind of moving the soil a little bit. Sometimes that's not technically considered tilling. I actually do that for my potatoes. So I have a huge barrel that I do potatoes in almost every year. And I almost always make sure that I have my little fork and I'm kind of just aerating it a little bit more, because I have my entire garden is no till, but for some reason, my potatoes, I just have to maneuver that soil just a little bit, and I'll add whatever compost is needed, because I've tried before to kind of just throw the potatoes in it. I do get a harvest, but nowhere near the harvest I get when I fork that soil in that big old barrel. So, just again, find out what works for you. Pay attention to your crops, pay attention to your garden, pay attention to it after it rains, before it rains, when it's in drought. Those things are super important, because the things that Casey may do may just not work for me. The things that I do may not work for him. Some things I do or some things he does, it may work for us. Just it depends, on what crops you're growing too. Like I said, my entire garden is no-till, but I always have to maneuver my potatoes, and I've done it both ways. And I was like, you know what? If this is giving me a better harvest, I'm not going to be stuck like I am no-till, so I must just take this harvest that I get, even if it's not as good. No, I'm going to be honest and be like, you know what? This is working better for this, so this is what I'm going to do. Don't be afraid to do that.
Yeah, and there's no garden police. There's nobody going to say, I thought you were a no-tiller.
I was about to say, Eric Bland, maybe.
Yeah, I have a garden police officer at my house, and every time he walks out there now, he's about to write me a ticket. He's like, "You're about to get a ticket." He's already fined me twice, so I'm like this close to getting a ticket for my garden. I'm just saying, there are garden police in Texas, Sandy. Just so you know,
Only in your yard, Monica. Only in your yard.
only at the ranch.
Only in the ranch. Well, we have a ton of clay in our soil where we have a creek in the backyard, and there is a lot of clay. And so, it does make the soil hard. So I'm guessing that's why, I don't know. I think it's just genetics that he just thinks that the garden is supposed to be tilled. I don't know, but I like the idea. Two Doves, Bees, and Gardens had stated that they started by tilling to establish the garden, then used solarization and oculization, big words, to create a sterile seed bed, and then cover crops and wood chips to get the good stuff going. That's great. And also, Carmen had said something a little earlier. We have had 4 by 4 foot by 16-inch raised beds to fill. And they were using pine needles and leaves between the layers of dirt, really cut down on the amount of soil she had to buy. I also made self-watering beds that helped a lot. Yeah. So, the thing that we want to come away from here is your garden is yours.
Mhm.
And you get to grow how and what you want to grow. So I just I want to make sure that we reiterate that. Monica is our fly by your pants, go on whatever is good kind of gal, and I love that about you,
The
Monica.
seed princess.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I've learned that it should be fun. It's been a place for me. The garden has been a place for me to just relax and to get out of my mind for a second and just to go in there and relax, whether I'm out there praying or I'm out there literally humming and singing to myself. I have to be a little quiet because I'm still by the road and people can hear me, but I'll just go to the garden, or whether I'm listening to podcasts or whatever it is.
That's
The
right.
garden is like my happy place. That's what my 10-year-old says. Oh, there goes mom to her happy place. Not that I'm not a happy person all the time, but my garden is my place, and I don't care what it looks like sometimes, and I'm okay with that, even if the garden police are not as happy. So, but I started with a messy garden a couple years ago when Sandy was like, challenge you to do a messy garden, and I still had things growing. And right now my garden is not producing the amount of food that I normally would get, but I did get two tomatoes and 2 cucumbers like 2 weeks ago.
Yay!
So
That's great.
something.
And so Carmen, Ginger from Not for Nothing Homestead said, I like to put little trenches around my plants. Do you do anything like that in your?
I have in the past, when I remember, but I mean, when I did do it, especially if I had like plants that I know need more water, I have done the trenches and they have worked, but I also have to check the trenches to make sure there's no critters trying to create a home in there. Cause I have noticed that if I have like any little divots or holes in random places, it's like the critters are like, wait a minute, is this my home? That is one issue I have with my creative haven in the garden, the food forest. Is it's a food forest for me, but it's also a food forest for others, and it's very welcoming to the critters. And they're just like, wait, what is this place that I've never seen before? And they're like, let me live here. Like, so I have to like go in there and kind of check very quietly because we've had skunks try to live in there before. And I'm like, please, Lord, don't let them skunk me. Like, so that is one kind of thing why I don't always do the little divots for the water. because I honestly am just scared that I'm just going to have more critters coming in, because I have had that in the past. It may never happen again, but I'm just like, let me just not do that.
Okay. I've never even really thought about that out in the garden, putting trenches around. That would make sense, but I haven't thought about that. And so, yeah, go ahead, Casey.
I was going to say that I had tried that one time, because even when you have the rows, if you make it like little ditches, you're not having to stand there forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever watering. You water and it runs down. It's like science. I wasn't good in school, but at least I could figure out that a slide works. Slide in the water right on down.
Well, having that cloth, what we have been able to do as far as watering is sometimes we'll just put the water hose on the end of the rows and let it run down, because the cloth is porous. And so it really wets the dirt on either side, or the soil, I should say, on either side. And so as far as no tilling, did we get that question answered, do you think, Monica, where what is tilling and what is not tilling?
Absolutely. I think it worked. I think we just talked about it enough, where you're tilling is you're turning over the soil, you're, aerating it. Sandy had answered that. And obviously not tilling is not doing it. I think it's great because we've discussed so many things here, but there's still more in our podcast that we just talked about this Monday. So I'm going to drop the Linktree link again, and y'all can just go click in that and listen to our episode anytime you want.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to say that when you're no-tilling, everything just gets laid on top. Where you're tilling, you're probably tilling the compost and the manures and stuff in there. No-till, everything is on top. And it just lets the garden do the work.
Like a lasagna kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this has been fabulous. Carmen from Jesus Loving Homestead, thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to be with you.
I
And
always
we said it on the podcast, but Carmen has been on every single season of Round the Hay Bale. Just saying, I think that's so cool. Like, she's put up with us enough for 5 seasons.
It's been so much fun. I enjoy talking to you guys, and I'm usually free in the morning, so you catch me on the perfect time.
There you go. It's no cash me outside, right? It's just
You chill, I chill.
There you go.
There you go. Well, thank you everyone so much for being here. Around the Hay Bale, Carmen, Jesus Loving Homesteader, Monica, Bland's Promised Land Ranch, Sandy, Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona, Casey from Ormsby Farms, and me, Ann from Andale Homestead. Please be sure and check out all of our channels, but don't forget to go over and check out Round the Hay Bale, because you'll be able to hear all of our podcasts and our live broadcast. And once we get 500 subscribers, Sandy is holding up one of the prizes that we have from season 5 that we're going to be giving away. Thank you, Ginger. Thank you, everyone. Ginger from Not for Nothing Homestead being our mod of all mods here, popping links on everyone's channels. And we hope that you all have a blessed day. So thank you again.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
We're back.
And now live every Friday.
With new topics and a new time.
Don't forget, a new host.
Yay, that's right. Sandy joins the panel for Hey Y'all Hey radio show.
Now, on Fridays at 11 a.m. Central.
We'll see y'all there.